Welcome back, guys, to the course, the T-SQL Toolbox Beginner to Intermediate. And in today's course, in today's lecture, we're going to be covering SSMS and we're going to be doing a brief introduction. Okay, learning objectives. So the purpose of this lecture is to just give you an introduction to SSMS, the environment, and these are tips and tricks that I've learned along the way of using SSMS. It won't be super technical, such as a DBA that needs to modify permissions, etc. So we're just going to do an essentials of SSMS. And with that said, let's jump into it. So let's fire up our SSMS. Okay, so just select the server name. So if you're working in a organization, you may see multiple servers here. But for the sake of this demonstration, we're just connecting to the default server here. Connect. So if you haven't used this environment before, maybe a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot of features, a lot of functionality. As mentioned, we're just going to do a bare essentials. So on the left here, we have the Object Explorer here. This is where we'll see all the databases, and I've created one here. And if we want to, let's say, for example, drill into test 2, we can see the tables here. Probably doesn't make a lot of sense if you haven't used it before. So let's jump into a query here. So you want to be pressing Control N on your keyboard. So I'm going to paste in a bit of code. You can find this in the resources if you want to follow along. Okay, so this is just a basic create table statement, which we'll learn. If you're not too sure of what all this means, that's fine. Suspend your disbelief for now, because we're going to cover it in the subsequent lectures in depth. So just follow me along if you want to follow along. So yep, we're in a query window. This is our create statement, insert statement, and select statement. So, yep, as you can see here, we're putting Mike Tyson and Joe Rogan in here. So there's multiple ways you can execute. I wouldn't think too much about it. I mean, the simplest way is to, if you want to execute the whole query, just press Control A to select all, and then Control E. Cool. So basically what this query did is it created a table, it inserted the statements, and then we retrieved that select all from Hello World. And this displayed in our results grid here. And if we see the message, this is also an important distinction to make, the messages tab. 1 row affected, 1 row affected, 1 row affected, 3 rows affected. So we can see here the activity that's occurred, the completion time, all pretty self-explanatory. And this is the results window. Okay, so that'll give you a feel for the results window. This is the bulk of where your queries will take place. This database here, available databases, is an important distinction to make as well, because if you're in the wrong database, so for example, if I'm in the temp DB database, and if I run this statement again, it won't work, because the Hello World table only exists in the test2 database. So just a keyboard shortcut, you can press Control U and then press up or down, depending on the database that you want to select, and then press Enter. So that's another way. And I think I may have just quickly executed that, so you can press the execute up here, or F5 if you will, with the text selected. And this results to text here, we can modify that. Sorry, the results to grid is the option selected. So, I mean, it may not make too much difference, but if you want to output that to text, and you can copy that. I prefer the grid, because if you're using Excel, you can highlight that and copy with headers, and that'll effectively copy it into a spreadsheet type format, which is very handy if you're using SQL in conjunction with Excel. I guess the next important feature of SSMS is the IntelliSense, and this will save you some time because especially if you're trying to remember names of tables or names of databases, this will help you out, give you a bit of a hand. So what do I mean by IntelliSense? So I'll give you an example. So if we just type in this basic statement, select all from DBO. So you see here this little message that pops up. So DBO, so this IntelliSense has read the entire database and it's picked up the table here. So that's completed it for us. That's an example. That's a very basic example of IntelliSense. Now, if you want to troubleshoot, if you're having any issues with your IntelliSense, if you want to troubleshoot that, you can always press Control-Shift-R, and what that does is it will refresh the cache, because it is a common, I commonly run, well, not common, but very rarely I run into the problem where IntelliSense is playing up. An alternative to that is if you go to the Edit, IntelliSense, and refresh local cache. And another feature that you'll be using quite frequently is the Control F, which is the find option. And more commonly is the find and replace. You may have a pre-existing bit of code that you want to modify. You want to change a database name. So for example, find hello world. Well, in this example, we're changing the table name, and we'll change it to tennis. So if I press this replace all, I've effectively replaced 6 occurrences. So that's only handy if we've got pre-existing code and we want to make some modifications. All right, so we'll go through a little bit of the Object Explorer. And as I said, because this is not a DBA type of course, it's more of a practical querying language course. So I'm not too sure how specific the use case would be. But in case you need to know, in case you need to locate stored procedures, functions are here, and we've got views as well. So don't be too concerned about the definition of what these are. Just understand that these are where you can find these things. So another point to make is the text. So if you, for whatever reason, if your text isn't this size and you'd like to change that, you can easily do so by going into Tools, Options, and in the option window type in Font, and we want to go to Show Setting for Grid Results. So if we change this to 10, I don't know why I'm making it smaller, but we can click OK. And I'm going to restart my SSMS. Select all from hello. There's the IntelliSense kicking in. Control A, Control E. So we can see here the font has reduced in size. So you can make modifications depending on your preference. And I'll just introduce you to the comments. Comment out. You can click on this to comment out. Or if you want to do let's say for example, you have a lot of code and you obviously don't want to do that line by line. The alternative to that is \** and then close that with a */. So then if I type in here, this won't be affected. IntelliSense again. So it'll only run this query once. And I guess for formatting, you want to be, we're not at that level at the moment, but you want to format your code in a simple to easy manner. You want to be efficient in your coding. I guess maybe we'll learn later on in the course about the formatting. Maybe it'll make more sense. And to end on this lecture on the final note, if you would like to turn your SSMS into dark mode, which is just an additional feature, it's a bit easier on the eyes if you're working late at night and you just want to give your eyes a little bit of a break. So, okay, so you want to jump onto your Windows machine and type in this in your file directory, the Windows Explorer. You want to find this address, and then you want to open up your Notepad++ in Administrator, run as administrator. And then I've already done this before, but what you want to do is you want to /, I'm guessing that is. So you want to put in 2 forward slashes or backslash, correct me if I'm wrong, and you can put that in there, and that'll effectively give you the option for dark theme. So let's save that, and we'll get out of that, and we'll have to restart SSMS again. Once you've loaded up SSMS, what you need to do is just go into Tools, Options, and then you should have dark mode there. Click OK. We'll give there we go, we're in it. Let's just show you what the code looks like. I particularly like dark mode. I think you're not as alert. I think the white screen really brings your eyes to life. And I know there's some science behind that. It's also it's always personal preference from the individual. So select all. Whoops, we're not in the right database. Common mistake. And that's it. So we've changed it to dark mode. So that's it, guys, for the lecture. I've covered the bare essentials of what I'm using SSMS for. And obviously there's more features, programmability features that we can use, such as stored procedures functions. That is not covered right now. But I've just given you a brief overview. So once we start to use the query language, we can hit the ground running with some pre-existing knowledge. With that said, I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you very much.